I'm about 6'7", so even when I'm just trying to be friendly and meeting a family member's or friend's kid for the first time, I've noticed they get very hide between their mother's legs, intimidated on sight if I'm not sitting down. So it's not hard for me to silence or intimidate a child, especially when I'm trying to. However, a few times I've been called out. One time I was pretty drunk with a friend at a Target buying Risk. This little Mexican 5 to 7-year-old with a mohawk was being an insufferable little punk in the action figure section. I heard him from like 5 aisles over, and it was like nails on a chalkboard. I tell my friend, "I'm gonna fart on this kid's head. Watch and learn." I saunter on over to the aisle in question and see the vile little punk calling his mom an idiot for not buying him a huge G.I. Joe, the movie toy vehicle, which pissed me off even more, considering how awful that movie was. "Buy some good toys, punk." "I already bought that one for you, and you broke it by throwing it down the stairs," the mother said. "Shut up, I need it. It's the only one I don't have now," replied the little punk. The mother was younger than me, I'm mid-20s, and gave a defeated look. "I don't have enough money right now. You are an idiot," and continued to just berate and publicly shame his mother. At the time, I was on a strict Chipotle carnitas burrito diet, and while I was watching all this, my stomach gave me an initial warning gurgle, telling me I was about an hour away from punishing some poor unfortunate toilet. Serendipity. Destiny. I inch a bit closer to my prey, inspecting some wrestling toys and pondering the weird industry of professional wrestling as a whole. Sport in general. The kid shouts, "Phew, I hate you." The mom rolls her eyes and turns her back to the kid to ignore him. And could you believe it? The kid gets on his hands and knees and starts taking the toy out of the box. It's go time. Mofos! I position my back towards him, and at this point, I am like 2 feet away from him. His head is down, getting frustrated with those blasted twisty tie things, and I go in for the kill. I bend down to reach for one of the toys on the lower shelf. At this point, my butt is inches away from this kid's head. Now, generally speaking, the best way to go about this is to act casual, drop your belly bomb, then walk away after a few seconds like nothing is out of the ordinary. I usually go 1 aisle over and listen to the kid's reaction in delight. However, today I couldn't help myself. I have my head tilted back looking at this kid out of the corner of my eye to ensure accuracy. I'm so close that from a distance, it looks like I'm about to sit on him. My friend sees this happening and can no longer contain himself. He's covering his mouth, but his hee-haw hyperventilating donkey chortle is fairly audible over the late 90s pop music. Playing on the loudspeakers, the kid immediately looks up towards the laughter, but can't help but notice there are buttocks now directly in his face. Now, I'm trying not to laugh, but also panicking, as I just made eye contact with him. He furrows his brow, and I look over in the mother's direction, still back towards us. I relish in the moment and the look on this child's confused and naive face. However, what immediately followed that out the chamber was truly horrifying. The fart's implication changed without notice and swiftly. It went from a joyous, dry air horn squeal to a nefarious hissing monster. I think the little punk noticed the hate-filled crop dust before even I did, because he jerked his neck back quickly, trying to get away from the evil cloud being blown into his soul. Because of his positioning, hovering over the toy, hands and knee, it was all in vain as the only way out was forward, and forward would mean certain death. I had positioned myself well on the higher ground, free to escape or relent at any time, and him, poor and immobilized, biding his time until the cruel attack was over. Obviously, this child needed to reread Sun Tzu. In total, it lasted about 4 seconds, but for that kid, it must have seemed like time was frozen. The long-term severe brain damage which he no doubt suffered only added to that effect. When I finished my anal concerto, there was a silent, pregnant pause. The kid was clearly shocked and stunned. No one had ever stood up to this dwarf sociopath in his whole life. I had taken the words out of his mouth and filled it with a wretched, angry fart. I make my move first, picking up the toy I was reaching for off the low shelf, take a few steps forward, and stare at it for a few seconds. The only thing the kid could manage to do was burst into tears. My friend senses danger, the jig is up, and his head darts for cover. The mom turns around to see her kid with an open toy, crying on the floor and me minding my own business. She walks up to him and asks, "What's wrong?" But the kid can't speak. All he gets out is a crying noise with the word fart thrown in there somewhere. It took every fiber in my body not to laugh. I put the toy back on a middle shelf, turn around, give a final nonchalant look, and then begin to take my exit. Sensing that his assailant was getting away scot-free, he somehow managed to compose himself for a moment. He shouts, "He farted on me!" I could feel him pointing at me, but I continued to act like I was just browsing. I was almost around the corner when the mom goes, "Excuse me, sir, sir." I turn around nonplussed. Who? Me? While pointing to myself. Yes? Did you just fart on my son? Weighing my options, I played dumb. What? I mean, I did fart. On my son? Well, technically speaking, what is on? Why did you fart on my son? At this point, the little kid has the look of schadenfreude on his face, happy to see me in trouble. Screw you. I'm a man. I will fart on you if I please. I turn my attention to the little kid and stare at him, because the whole store could hear him being a little rotten jerk to his mother, so I thought I'd come over here and treat him like one. The mom looks at me, her son, and the scattered G.I. Joe wrappers and box on the floor. The mom is puzzled as to what to do and says, just go. That's my cue. I turn around, walk away with little extra step. I look up to see the black orb of security cameras and all the stories on the internet about unjustly having to register as a sex offender flash before my eyes. As soon as I turn the corner, I book it outside as fast as I can while dialing my friend. Like a true friend, he is right out front with the engine running and Risk in the trunk. We laugh on the car ride back about the whole scene. With a slight hint of seriousness in his tone, my friend asks me, "Do you do that a lot?" "Oh, not that much. Like once every 6 months or so." We both knew I was lying. We got to our other friend's house, played Risk until 4 in the morning while drinking scotch. Overall, I would say it was a pretty good day. This story happened a few years ago and was a crucial learning experience, to say the least. I was unemployed and job hunting in New York City, and I had this idea that the best way to go into interviews was to have no food in my body so that I could have total clarity on my thoughts. No fogginess from food. So, every night before I had an interview, I would take a laxative, and then in the morning I would let everything out and go on to achieve perfect clarity in my interview. The morning after taking a laxative, I wake up late and have no time to go to the bathroom. I don't really have to go anyway, so I figure it's fine. And I go on to the executive assistant interview. The moment I enter the interview, I can feel that the laxative has taken hold, and I am desperately trying to hold everything in while answering questions about my qualifications. Finally, I am led to another room filled with computers for a skills test. I am alone at last, and I relieve some of the stress on my stomach by passing some burning hot gas, a risky move no matter what. The smell that comes out of me is horrific. It smells like garbage, diapers, death, old cheese, all mixed in together, and it's heavy. You can feel it in the air, and it settles on your skin like a thick blanket of fog. I can barely breathe, and I am holding my breath, waiting for it to dissipate. Minutes after this demon smell is released, the woman who was interviewing me comes in with a man so that he can do his own skills test. As soon as they pick up on this vulgar scent, their faces twist in disgust, and the woman waves her hand around in front of her face, trying to create space to breathe. I did the same and said, "I think there's something wrong with this room." She gave me such a dirty look, clearly knowing it was me, and now knowing that I'm also a liar. I finished my skills test, and when I went to check out, for some reason, no one spoke to me at all, either to thank me for coming in or to let me know that I'd be hearing from them. Nothing. I was too ashamed to ask for a bathroom key, even though I was certain I was going to dump in my pants at any minute. So I sprinted outside to the nearest McDonald's, where I proceeded to further destroy their already disgusting bathroom. To no one's surprise, I didn't get any callbacks from this executive assistant agency. When I was in 6th grade, my small-town school track team did very well and was allowed to compete in the state finals. My event was the 200-meter dash, and while I did okay against the other small towns we normally faced, I had no chance at state. This was pretty much the case for most of us, so we mostly goofed off and explored the massive arena and whatever else to kill time. Those days, I wasn't allowed soda at home, but this day, somebody bought me a huge Coke, and I thought it was great. It came time for me to run my race, well actually my heat in the preliminaries, as this thing was so big time that they actually had more runners than would fit on the track at once. First time I'd ever seen that. Coach tells me to do my best and have fun. Nobody expects much. It's just an honor to be there. I line up on this beautiful, wide cinder track with maybe 15 lanes, I was used to 8, and an unbelievable crowd watching. Big grandstands full of people, all new to me. I get kind of excited about the whole thing. So we all set our feet in the blocks, crouch down and tense up, waiting for the shot from the starter pistol. Meanwhile, a hush settles over the crowd. We're on edge, waiting for the bang. When the starter pistol fires, I take this huge leap forward like I'm going to sprint the whole 200 meters, which is pretty much what people who are good at it do, but not my usual approach. This massive physical effort simultaneously propels the most violent, loudest fart of my life out of my stink hole. Most of the crowd hasn't trained to the peak physical level that I have, so their reaction to the pistol shot is a tiny bit slower. The effect is that after the bang, but before anyone makes a single sound, my fart echoes through the arena with unbelievable clarity and tone. For everyone there, it's just like bang, fart! I manage a few strides just out of instinct before the realization of what's happening starts to set in. I glance over at the crowd, and in that split second, I can just see it on every face. They know. They all know. And they are all looking right at me. This starts me laughing super hard while also running as hard as I ever have. And what's my body's reaction to that unusual combination? Yep, fart a lot more. However, I am now taking strides pretty rapidly, so instead of one big blast, I'm ripping a little one with each step. I can't even think of what letters could represent the sound. If you can imagine a rapid series of very brief, very loud farts, that's pretty much it. This whole situation has only taken like 10 seconds to develop. We aren't even halfway done yet, and I've farted about 15 times. I literally could not continue from laughing so damn hard. I stumble to a hunched over stop, right there in the middle of the fanciest arena I've ever been to, giggling like the farting idiot I am. I then realize that nobody is rushing past me, which, come to think of it, should have happened by this time in the race, regardless of the fart situation. I turn around, and every one of the other runners is either lying on the ground or crouched over, laughing just as hard as I am. Literally crying, laughing. Apparently, my fart-propelled lunge off the line had taken most of them out, and the rest succumbed to my staccato encore presentation. And that's the story of how an entire heat was eliminated from the 200-meter state finals with no one completing the event, which I was told had never happened before in the history of state finals. I escaped amazingly unscathed, as the tiny handful of people from my school were all setting up for their own events and not watching. There were rumors of a second farter, and basically they let me walk away. I hid in the school bus till we left, and my coach was the only person to ever speak to me about it. He didn't laugh, but he also didn't yell at me.